Hello there, my name is Kyle Langston, and today we'll be going over some practice methods. When I say practice methods, what I mean are different methods we use so that we can, well, I guess, different steps we can take to more effectively learn our music or learn our parts as an individual, but also a lot of these will apply to a section. So if you're leading a sectional or you're part of a sectional, these are things to suggest and sometimes use. A few things before we get started in the actual methods. Some tools you'll need in the practice room are a metronome to keep a steady beat. The metronome keeps a steady beat, but also it'll help you check in with where you are in relation to the actual specified tempo. So for instance, if you're supposed to play something at 120 beats per minute, but you just can't do it, that's okay. Just take it down to where you can and make sure you check. So if you're playing it at 80 beats per minute and you need to be at 120, that's okay. That's a great place to start because you can do it, but just know that that's your starting spot. And when you go back to practice it, you can start there and say, I can play this at this tempo. And gradually, which we'll talk about in a second, you can move it up so that it's a better, closer to the specified tempo that the composer wants you to play. The second tool that you'll need is a tuner. The tuner is designed so that it tells you if you're in tune or not. It's a machine, it doesn't lie to you, and so the idea is you have something objective in your practice space, and that thing tells you, hey, you're in tune, hey, you're not in tune. So the idea is we practice with good intonation, with good time, that's our metronome, and good rhythm. Now, rhythm, a machine can't really evaluate necessarily, well, yet, but something that you could use to evaluate your rhythm and tempo and intonation is a recording device of some kind. It doesn't really matter what it is. If it's a cell phone, if it's your Android, iOS, whatever device, if it's your laptop, whatever it might be, something to record yourself. They do have handheld recorders also, but the idea is you're recording yourself so that you can listen back and say, okay, this is what really happened. Because the recorder, again, it's a machine, it doesn't lie to you. The idea behind these tools is you can be your own evaluation. You can use all these to check up on yourself. And the nice thing about having a recording, maybe a recording of you playing with a metronome, is you can tell orally where your faults lie. Now, orally, that's a word that means by listening. Oral is something that's listening, versus oral, which is speaking. So it's a fine line to walk between those two terms, because oral means speaking and oral means listening. Generally, in band, we talk about oral things, listening things, versus oral, which is speaking, because we don't speak a lot in band. But outside of band, you'll hear oral, something, an oral exam is your speaking, some sort of speaking exam, a spoken word. Anyway, enough on that. So, recording device, great. Do it if you can. Tuner, essential. Metronome, essential. So, now moving into some practice methods. One of the things about practicing is generally we have to practice because we're not perfect the first time that we play something. So one of the easy ways to combat that is to play it slow. And it is exactly how it sounds. You're playing it slower than it's written. So that's the same example before. If it's written at 120 beats per minute and we can play it at 80, I'm not going to try to play it at 120 yet because I can't. And I know that I can't yet. And that's an important part of practice also, is yet. You can't do it yet. You will one day. So for now, I can play it at 80 beats per minute. In the future, I will play it at 120 beats per minute because that's what I have to do for the concert or performance or whatever. But now I'm going to practice it and I'm going to make it perfect at 80 beats per minute. One tool that we have to make things perfect is what we call chunking. And chunking is you take a small piece of the whole section you're trying to play. You take maybe 3 or 4 measures and you slow those down, playing slow, our first method. You take that chunk, that 3 or 4 bars, and you play it. So the first time you play it, it's probably not going to be perfect because you're picking this chunk specifically because you need to work on it. So this chunk that has issues, right? We're going to go through it and we're going to figure out what exactly the issues are. And the idea is we take this small piece, this chunk, and we take it out of context, then we make sure it's good, then we kind of plug it back in. But we don't do it all at once. You don't play the whole phrase. You're maybe going to play the measure before and the measure after. Or you'll play just a note or two before and a note or two after. So you're adding it gradually, and eventually we'll get it so that the whole entire thing is played and it's smooth and it's great at about 80 beats per minute. So what you're thinking probably is, I have to play this a lot faster. Oh my goodness, the gig is coming up. The concert, right? Well, the way we combat that is we say, okay, it's perfect at 80 beats per minute. It's immaculate. I've never played anything so great in my life, right? Maybe it's not quite 100% perfect, but it's maybe getting close to time for the concert. So we'll do what we call zone tempos. Zone tempos mean that for this excerpt, right, we're playing at 80 beats per minute. We have it here, and we need it here, right? So instead of going like this, where we just go all the way instantly, oh no, I can't play it, oh darn, okay. Or just barely moving the metronome up. So from 80 beats per minute to 82 beats per minute, 84 beats per minute. No, we're not going to do that either. What we're going to do is we're going to take this 40 beats per minute gap, right? And we're going to split it into chunks. We're going to split it into different zones. So, for instance, 80 to 92 is a zone. 92 to 112 is a zone. And then 112 to 120. That's our last zone. So we've got 3 zones that we're going to be dealing with here. So for the first one, I've got it nailed. It is perfect at 80 beats per minute. Well, now my gig is a month out, so I've got to bring it up to tempo, right? Well, I'm not going to go all out yet. I'm going to move it up to 92. When I move it to 92 beats per minute, maybe new problems arise. So new problems are coming up, and I don't know what to do about it, right? So I'll use my practice methods at this tempo and go from there, and so on and so forth. So there's this zone tempos. So we don't just incrementally increase. We go in chunks and chunks. So another piece is chaining, and the reason I said this after zone tempos is because a lot of times you'll get into a zone tempo situation where you've increased your speed a little bit, and now you have new issues, like I just mentioned. So now we have, instead of a full chunk, probably, we might have a few notes, 3 or 4 notes that are giving us trouble, maybe one measure, that kind of thing. So what chaining is, it's you take one note, say we have 5 notes in our passage that we're having trouble with. We take the first note, play that. All right, that's a good note. Now we play the second note. Okay, now we play the first note and then the second note. Oh, okay. Play the first note and the second note. Okay, that's good. There we go. Got that down. Play it one more time just for cuz. First note, second note. Okay, good. So now play the second note and third note, and so on and so forth. So we've got the first note to the second note to the third note to the fourth note to the fifth note, and that's the whole lick. So now we go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Until it's much better, and then we try adding it in to the whole portion that we've taken out of context, this chunk, right? This chunk versus the chunk we were using earlier. Because maybe that chunk is now easier at the fast tempo, where this one's harder at the fast tempo. It was easy before, but now, maybe it's a bunch of notes, and you're gotta go all over the place. So it's different. One more tool we have is called Sing and Say, and this is, you have a note, right? A lick, C, D, E, F, G, right? That's our C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G. That's going to be the lick we're using right now. Just as an example. And we do exactly what I just did. C, D, E, F, G, sing the note names in rhythm and in time. So you have a tempo, right? C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G. Oh, hey, I got it. So that's a good way to practice making sure you've got the mental connection happening. So now, once you know how it sounds and you know what all the note names are, now you can add your horn back, your clarinet, your trumpet, your trombone, whatever it might be. Another thing to do with the sing and say is to finger along while you're singing and saying the notes. So if I play trumpet, I'm going to go C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G, right? Because maybe I can't get it so fast yet. C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G. And that's another part of the zone tempos. Do it where you can and gradually speed it up. The next portion is called elimination. Elimination is where you take out different pieces. So, for instance, the sing and say. You're taking out the actual noise production. If it's a clarinet, it's the reed. If it's the trumpet or trombone, it's the buzzing. You're taking out different pieces to make sure that the other pieces work better. And then sometimes you have to flip it back around. So, for instance, you've got that trumpet player who's done his fingerings and he's got them down. Well, now he goes to play it and he can't play it right. So he says, "Oh, okay, well, interesting. Let me try something else." So maybe he takes out his mouthpiece and he buzzes the notes, and then he puts it back in and he plays it and it's great and it's perfect. So that's he eliminated the fingers and the trumpet to just use the mouthpiece. The last method we'll go over is called wind patterning, and this is essentially another form of elimination where we're eliminating everything except the air and the tongue. So we're saying we're going to just blow the note and tongue it. So we're going to go. So my tempo. That kind of a thing. So that's just the tongue and the air, making sure that stuff's happening. Then we'll add it all together, and once you add it all together, you have a great practice method to go into the practice room with, and you're prepared for whatever might happen.